day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us in this room and online. And we'll have research on shadow economy. Our speaker is Volodymyr Paniotto, Director General the Kiev International Institute of Sociology. Abel Polese, Senior Research Fellow with the CU Institute for International Conflict Resolution and Restructuring, and Olga Lysa, Senior Researcher at Kiev Institute of Sociology. Thank you for organizing this conference. Good day. And we'd like to present a project called Shadow, and it's financed through framework program Horizon 2020. And it's done by Dublin University with help of Kiev Institute of Sociology. We discuss what are the weakest points and where is the highest level of shadow economy, and we'd like to present our results. Shadow project includes several parts. One, we'd like to measure methodology that was already applied in Baltic states to calculate shadow economy, but we also would like to make sure that our research studies methodologies and ways to measure and relate to shadow economy. Therefore, first of all, why we talk about shadow economy. Shadow economies are different and there are different definitions. Very often that is associated with corruption, production or sales of illegal products, contraband and other crimes. But here, shadow economy, in order to understand it, we need to first define them in some way. We need to know what we want to study, what we can study, what we can not study. So here in this project we distinguish shadow economy from illicit actions and corruption. They can interact. There could be payment from some companies to some persons that have corruption and shadow economy. But shadow economy, for definition of shadow economy, we use the same definition that are used by Putin and Sauka for the Baltic states. Some economy can be measured, some economy can be illegal, and some is illegal because it's not declared, because part economy of economy is not declared. And some economies are intermediate. It's not fully illegal. We're not talking about sales of drugs. We don't talk about trafficking, but companies sometimes underdeclare their workers or declare less income. So in a way, they decrease their less of the profit to pay less tax, to have less problems with authorities, with government. And in this project, I believe we had innovative methodology and some new approach to say that we need to measure shadow economy to understand what sectors of economy are at higher risk of shadow economy. We also need to understand what um, sectors the government should look at to improve situation in the country. These informal economies definition help us to understand that if we fight everything at the same time, then some of our examples are ineffective. If we fight corruption, if we fight crime, if we fight everything in the same package, then we'll be less effective because we are not targeting specific issues. On the other hand, shadow economy can be viewed as indicator of relationship between citizens, businessmen, and the government. One person does not pay taxes. This is deviation. We can say they're acting in the wrong way, but when majority of citizens, when significant part of citizens is involved in such practices, the question, and for me, is: are they all bad people? If 50% of the country are not submitting to a specific law or they're not paying taxes, are they bad or there is no dialogue? There is no trust. Something is wrong because some procedure may be too complicated. The purpose of the government and purpose of citizens are not coinciding, are different. And here we have a problem of politics, of political measures that should target certain areas of shadow economy. Also, targeting areas of shadow economy help us define where measures are more urgent, and that would regulate the economy. Because one thing is to punish everyone who is in the shadow economy and then try to restore them, but other, if we are looking for ways to convince or encourage entrepreneurs to get out of shadow and to move into formal zone. But then they need to understand certain benefit. There should be not just punishment for those who misbehave, but also should be encouragement or simplification of certain procedures. To measure shadow economy, we use methodology of Putnis and Sauka that was used in Baltic states. Professor Sauka is from the School of Economy in Stockholm and Riga, and then they started doing this survey in the Baltic states, and our project tried to attain the same methodology in different post-Soviet countries. Of course, every country has its peculiarities. So, what worked in Latvia and Estonia will not necessarily work in Ukraine or Georgia or Kyrgyzstan. We still wanted to give it a try and to see if some significant results could be derived. Now about this survey, and I'd like to give the floor to the director of Kiev International Institute of Sociology, how this general methodology was applied in our case in Ukraine. The study was done in 800 companies by telephone interview. And we have asked people who are well informed of this business. Our study represents all companies of Ukraine, all types, large, small, medium, and micro. We had stratified sampling. Every type of companies was surveyed proportionally to their number in general public. We also had stratification by region. We had 5 regions: West, South, East, North Center, and Kiev City. A method of survey was computer assisted telephone interview. All regions, all sectors of the economy. We did our questioning from March to May, and then it took us some time to analyze and weigh the reports. Olga was preparing that report, and similar studies are done in other countries. And sometime later, the results were presented. Thank you. Results are many. They're very interesting too. Would you like to comment? Please, 2 minutes. First, the main task was to measure the level of shadow economy in Ukraine according to methodology that was proposed to us by partners from Baltic states. We applied it, and we discovered that the level of shadow economy in Ukraine in 2017 was 46.8%. However, from 2017 to 2018 has increased and now reached 47.2%. You compare the data to the data published by the Ministry of Social Policy, then we have assessed the level of shadow economy much higher than they did. But on the other hand, if we take the assessment done by independent experts like Schneider, then our assessment are very close to the ones published by international companies and organizations. Also, when you see that level of shadow economy in Ukraine is not varying much by regions, almost everywhere it's at the same level, from 44 to 50%. If we look by sectors of economy, as Abel said, this is one of the advantages of this approach. We can assess a level by economy sectors. Then, say, the highest level of shadow is in following sectors of economy. That would be retail and construction. Here, the level of shadow is more than 50%. The main components, according to this methodology, The main components of the index of shadow economy include characteristics that show how much people avoid taxes. That is, how much they under-register their profit from business, how much they under-report the number of employees, and also the way businessmen underreport salaries they pay to their workers. If you look at these components, you see the highest underreported component relates to envelope wages. It's very high, more than 50% of this indicator. Also, despite the fact that business income is significantly underreported, people are afraid to be caught in hiding their income, and also they're afraid of being caught in bribery. At the same time, they're very pessimistic about measures that could be applied by the government against their illegal shadow activity. Specifically, about 72% of people believe that the measures of punishment that government could apply for underreporting income and employees could be very significant and could impact their business operations. One quarter of people reporting said that these measures could cause them to close business. And the last thing, as conclusion. Of course, we don't have final conclusions and we don't have final advice on how we should do things, but it seems to me that, as we know, shadow economy takes significant part in the life of the nation. The index of shadow economy does not always measure everything. I had a small story. In our team, we have economists and sociologists. I'm not just talking about Kiev International Institute of Sociology. I'm saying all sociologists disagree with all economists. Because we can understand things that we can measure, but sociologists are saying that there are non-monetary transactions. They are long-term transactions. If two people have not been in business for many years, like in Georgia, it's called friendship from childhood. If they exchange services as barter, how can you catch this? You cannot measure that by questionnaire. You need to understand the specificity of the country. So for me, the point to start is to understand the country and the business structure in the country. But the fact is that many entrepreneurs are afraid to do that, but they still do that. So, there is a possibility there is incentive to make that action regular. If they can make life easier by this illegal action, that makes that action popular. And here is a question about public policy, the governance of the nation. How can we improve the government of the nation by understanding motives, understanding why there is such situation, why people go into the shadow economy, and how we can invite them back. Not to punish them, but pull them out of the shadow economy. Conclusions? Unfortunately, we've just met today, and I wanted to clarify some things, and I'd like to ask some questions that I have in use of these methodologies. The thing is, we used Baltic methodology here for business survey, but our institute back in 1995-96 proposed methodology to study characteristics of people who are involved in shadow economy. And overall, in addition to us, it was used by Neumann from France. And the thing is that for a person not to be afraid to recognize that they are involved in shadow economy, we ask them to describe a person that they know very well, her or him. We're saying we will not ask who that is. Could be you or members of your family or your friends or even enemies, doesn't matter. We ask about that person, some of their characteristics, and whether they're involved in shadow economy. So in fact, whether they pay taxes from all their incomes. In this methodology of Baltic states is quite similar. The question is, why have not you used our methodology? Why have you chose a Baltic methodology? I see two reasons, or three reasons even. There are some technical reasons. There are some incidents. Technically, the project was submitted for financing as part of economic panel. And I proposed to Arnis, who I work with, to write methodological part. Because he's a real economist, unlike me, he proposed his methodology of comparison. And he started measuring shadow economy by questionnaire in Armenia and Moldova. He's tried to expand. He's interested to compare his results to other results. But then, I think your methodology could be used, but we needed to find a possibility. There is no confirmed method of measuring shadow economy. There is Schneider, there is yours, and I wanted to have more data. What would be the results? So with your data, with Arnis, and with Schneider. So we ordered from you a survey not on shadow economy, but on introductions. It was your methodology, but also it was not about money, but how acquaintances help resolve certain issues, and how people believe that government cares for them or not. And to see that it turns out, for me, it's very interesting. And we still work with that data. It turns out that my conclusion was people trust. When people trust less the government, when people mistrust the government, they try to help each other. So mutual help was correlated to low trust to the government. So there are two different structures. There's formal government structure, where you can try to join, but also, if I can't get government connections, how do I solve my problems? And it's not just about Ukraine. I remember one conference in Napoli on criminology. And someone said, well, we need to get rid of mafia. But then, if a person is unemployed and they try to find a job and government does not help them, and then they go to their friend, their neighbor, who's a mafioso, who offers a job. And we discovered that people find more trust to their neighbors if government does not help them. We saw one story when we arrested some mafioso in a certain district, and then people started throwing rocks at police. So there will be more social benefit to keep allowing that mafioso bring order to that district rather than replace them with police. I'd like to add that turns out that half of our economy is in the shadow. And if the government takes at least a half or 25% of shadow economy, government will earn more than loans from the World Bank. It's very effective. In the beginning of 2000s, some economists, for example, they proposed to build a tax system in a way that some types of shadow economy would not be taxed at all, because then we had the highest level of poverty in Ukraine, and part of those taxed incomes were survival mechanisms and not shadow economy. Some small incomes that were not feasible for taxation. So results show that this is one of extremely important aspects of economy. Not just economy, but social life. And you can do more here than using some other ways. There are questions? Dear guests, if you have questions, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. If we have no questions, then we thank everyone for your attention, and we'll conclude our brief